Hi, I'm Adrian Chan. I'm suffering from an eye condition called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. I am completely blind in the right eye and the vision in the left eye is slowly fading. I used to be a school teacher for many years and I was unable to carry on in my job as I couldn't cope with the marking. I've since moved on to doing freelance tuition and to coping with a new way of life, and I manage my daily needs, my daily lifestyle needs without much trouble. It took a while to come out of this situation, but I'm glad that I have conquered the difficulties. I struggle a lot with poor vision, so therefore I fall down frequently. I sometimes cannot see the steps that I'm walking on, and I also have no peripheral vision, no visual field out of the right side. So often when I get on the train, on the bus, I tend to knock into people because I can't see out of my right eye. Very often I cannot see the vegetables or the food that I'm cutting, so I have to use food scissors instead of knives. And for my daily tasks, I try to do it more often in the daytime rather than at night. I'm also very afraid to go out at night because at night when it's dark, the vision gets very alarmingly little, and therefore I get very stressed and very worried. In my work as well, I've not been able to carry on with my marking. That's why I had to leave my teaching job. And I also struggle especially with the fear of this darkness closing in on me because my world is constantly dark. I also struggle especially with the fear of medical expenses because I have to maintain an income to pay the medical bills for this condition. As a result of the depression that I suffered, my marriage broke down and my family has since decided to separate from me, and I have had to live on my own. So I have moved on into a new home and learning to adjust to it. I used to be a very outgoing, gregarious person who enjoyed interacting with people, and I also enjoyed reading. I had a love for the written word. I found it very difficult to cope with the fact that I could no longer see properly, let alone read well. I also struggled especially in my work because I was a very exacting teacher. I taught in good schools and had very high standards from my students and my fellow colleagues. And I also realized that I could no longer measure up to those standards myself when my eyesight failed. I've had to be more patient with myself. I also had to learn to adjust to not being able to do many things on my own. I became very tired of the inertia and the depression. I decided that it was time to stop whining and moaning and lying in bed, and I decided that I was going to pick myself up and move on. And one very important thing that I said to myself was, I'm worth loving. I count myself worthy of living. It was very difficult initially to believe that there was a life worth living without sight. But I realized that if many other people go blind, whether from birth or later on in life, and they survive it, so can I. And I had to tell myself that I deserve to have a life, even if each day that comes along may not be sighted. I chose to believe that I have to live whatever time I have left with vision to the best of my ability, to make each day count. And I had to force myself to follow a routine, to follow a program, a schedule every day where I would get out of bed and follow some activities and carry them out rather than just sit around all day and brood as I used to when I was depressed. That helped tremendously, and also a lot of positive support and encouragement from friends, especially from myself. I had to constantly tell myself that I was able to conquer this difficulty. I wanted especially to prove to myself that this burden, this disability does not disempower me. Very often we allow our situation in life to defeat us, and I wanted to prove to myself and to my family and friends that despite this incredibly difficult situation, I had the guts, the courage, the determination to live my life as best as I can. I had to constantly remind myself that they were also looking to me for inspiration, and I realized that I could be a source of strength not just to myself but also to others. I decided to stop languishing in self-pity, I decided to stop grumbling about my situation, but to take each day, to take each challenge as it comes and to make the most of it. And when I needed help, I had to ask very boldly. In some ways, I had to swallow my pride as well in being ready to say, I need help with certain things, certain difficulties that I encountered, and that helped me to take away the sense of shame or stigma that I attach to my own condition. Very often, in a disability, in this kind of condition, we are our own worst enemies. I became my own worst critic, and I needed to stop blaming myself and criticizing myself for the times that I fell short, for my inadequacies, for my difficulties, and to simply embrace the difficulty and stop whining and start moving ahead. I had to address the difficulties in my life and simply muster up enough grit and determination to just get through them. After this whole experience, I gradually realized that I had to learn to be more patient with myself. I was more forgiving of other people's errors, when in the past I was a very harsh and unforgiving person. I felt compelled always to strive for the best, but now I realized that I had to be humble. I really began to like the new person that emerged. I was someone who was not ashamed of saying I needed help, someone who was patient with myself and also sought others' advice, others' opinions, and listened and was more ready and accepting of others' viewpoints. I realized that I became humbler and I was much more accepting of other people's flaws as well. And that was something that I really liked about myself. Each day when I woke up, I remembered to thank God that I still had some sight. As I woke up each day, I could open my eyes and there was still some functionable, usable vision. I was very grateful for it, and I told myself that I must make each day count. I had to tell myself very often, let's get up and move ahead with my day, move ahead with my plans. I had to plan ahead for the week. I tried to keep to a schedule. I kept myself busy. I chose each day not to worry or fear about when the vision would leave me. It's a very real fear at times, but I had to tell myself, let's drop that, and I still have vision for now, so let's live in the here and now. I started to go out a lot more to exercise. I made a daily routine out of jogging, swimming, working out at the gym. I also embarked on a few cookery classes. I enjoy cooking, so I tried creatively learn to cook more dishes at home and to invite friends over. I became more confident, especially in writing. Even though I can't write for an extended period of time, I spend time every day journaling, writing down my thoughts, to journal this whole experience of my entry into darkness, into blindness. I also did my best to speak to other blind people who were undergoing the same fears, the same experience, and I was part of a program to help blind people adjust to the daily rituals of life. As a part of that learning experience, we were blindfolded and we had to learn how to get about completely in the dark. And most of all, spending time in church with a community of faith and with God. I think all these activities, they help to keep me emotionally and psychologically focused and balanced. This readiness to seek avenues for interaction with people, and also to rely on a community of friends and church mates for support really helped me. There were days when I would fall down while jogging and the thought of giving up would come along, but I have to tell myself to rest for a few days and then to get back to, because if I stopped, I knew that the energy that I drew from all these activities would be wasted, in the sense that I will go back into depression or go back into that brooding mode. I knew what I had stepped out of and I didn't want to go back there. And I think the activities that I had was my routine, my method of overcoming the previous inertia in my life. So I was determined to live a purposeful life of fruitful, productive activity. I would say that blindness is a very humbling journey. It makes you aware that we often take our vision for granted. And when it leaves us and we're helpless to change the situation, we have no choice but to learn to make the most of whatever limited vision that we have. I think what the experience meant to me now is it has made me a more resilient person who is ready to say that your losses in life do not define you. Simply because one has lost one's vision, one's previous capacity to work professionally a certain way, it does not discount one's worth. And I still count myself worthy, despite the fact that I have lost many things in my life. And I like the new person better because this person appreciates the simple joys like cooking a good meal or even interacting with one's friends. I've learned to appreciate people better. I've also learned to be a lot more patient, and I think that is something that I value about this experience. I think the most important tip would be to never allow your storm to be the only defining loss in your life. Instead of telling yourself how big your storm is, tell your storm how big you are, and your friends, your faith will help you to overcome that storm. It's very important not to be defeated by the storm that we face. The second tip I have would be to always keep going, to keep doing something, even in whatever small limited way that we can, because it is when we stop doing and believe that we cannot do anything that we really fail ourselves. Because I think even people who are experiencing disability can do many things. In fact, they can do many things better than those people who are fully able-bodied. The third tip I have would be simply to trust that even if you cannot find hope in your situation, you need to carry on for the sake of the people around you. The people around you need you to sustain their faith and to sustain their belief that our human condition, our illnesses, our losses do not crush us. We may not always be able to cope with them well, we may struggle with them, but we need to live for others, not just ourselves. Thank you very much for listening to me through this time and listening to my sharing. I hope that we can share again at some point in future, and I hope you will watch the film, enjoy it, and please also continue to support those who face challenges like myself. With that, this is Adrian Chan, and I hope to be in touch again with you in this journey if we have to share some more.